I've been flying with Delta for years, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how you can get status with Delta and the perks that you can expect that come along with your status. And I'm Rachel. I share credit card hacks and I teach you how to use your points to book business class flights. So consider subscribing if that sounds interesting to you. Also, I'd really appreciate if you left a like on this video. It really helps the channel grow. Now let's jump into things. So status can be earned with Delta through a number of ways, and the first being the most obvious, it's flying with Delta, of course. So you'll earn miles for the trips that you take that are paid with cash, and I believe that you still earn miles on the trips that you book using points as well. So that's obviously a bit of a no-brainer. You can also earn Delta status or earn miles or MQDs with them when you're flying with their partner airlines like Air France or KLM or a number of others. And so that's an important thing that we should touch on. You're earning MQDs, Medallion qualified dollars with Delta to earn their status. It used to be different. It used to be a little bit easier in my opinion. And then last year or the year before, they brought in the MQD rules. And when you get to 10,000 MQDs, you are gold status with Delta. 15,000 MQDs will get you to platinum, and 28,000 will get you to diamond. And so a Medallion qualified dollar is based on the number of dollars that you spend on a flight or the amount of dollars that flight would be worth if you're purchasing with points. And then it can also be dollars that are spent on your Delta branded credit cards, not one-to-one, but we'll touch on that later. Or it could be MQD boosts or head starts, which we'll also touch on there. So gold basically gets you nothing. I mean, you might get sky priority boarding. You might get upgraded on your flight once in a blue moon. It's not really worth chasing, in my opinion. And so I wouldn't recommend you using any strategies or hacks to get to gold status. However, if you're close to platinum status, it might be worth hacking your way there. Diamond status, there are good perks on it, but 28,000 MQDs, that's a lot of dollars to spend with Delta if you're paying out of your own pocket or spending on credit cards with Delta, which come with its own set of cons, I would say. We'll touch on that too. So outside of flying with Delta and their partner airlines, you can also earn towards status with them by spending on Delta branded credit cards. So American Express and Delta have 3 partner credit cards that I'm familiar with: the Gold, the Platinum, and the Reserve. So don't get these confused with the straight American Express cards. These are separate: Delta Gold, Delta Platinum, and Delta Reserve. And they each have different price points and different perks with them. Now, if you're spending on the Delta Platinum card, you can get $1 of MQDs to every $20 that you spend on that card. So if you're paying just for your normal groceries and day-to-day expenses or hotels, whatever you're booking, you start earning more MQDs, which helps you reach status faster. And then if you're spending on the Delta Reserve, the purple card, that would earn you 1 MQD per $10 of spend. So it gets you to that MQD threshold a little bit faster than spending on a Delta Platinum card. But do I think that this is a good way to spend your dollars? No, the answer is actually absolutely not. And some people in my comments on Instagram and TikTok argued with me on that, but for the most part, I don't see any reason why you should be spending on these cards unless you're just trying to push to the last bit of status, or you have so much spend that it doesn't really matter, or I'm trying to think, or to use the perks on the cards, obviously. Okay, but why do I think it's a bad idea to spend on these cards? It's because your miles that you're earning per dollar of spend on the Delta American Express cards, they're stuck in Delta. And Delta, I don't know if you've noticed, their flights are really expensive to book with Delta miles or booking with points online compared to if you had the same amount of points where you could spend them on an American Airlines flight or a United flight or a JetBlue flight. Delta's going to be one of the more expensive options. And don't even get me started on flying business class with Delta transcontinentally. Oh my gosh, it's so expensive. You know, I did a video on this the other day, but you can get a Delta flight, business class from JFK to Paris, for example, for 392,000 points on Delta or Delta miles. And you can get the same or very similar flight from New York to Paris on Air France with Flying Blue right now with 50,000 points from your American Express, which has a 20% transfer bonus. Those flights, when you get the sale flights, are usually 60,000 points, but it's so much cheaper. It's like 1/8 of the price to go with a American Express straight cards point partner versus booking on your Delta portal if you had Delta miles only. So all of that to say, if you're earning on a straight out American Express card, you have flexibility in your points. You have a number of partners that you can transfer those points to, depending on where you find the best pricing for the deals or flights that you're looking at, or a hotel even. Whereas if you're spending on a Delta Amex, you're earning Delta miles and you can't transfer those points elsewhere, you have to buy within the Delta portal, and it's usually Delta flights. There is one exception to this rule where Delta miles actually become very good value when your flight doesn't start and doesn't end in the United States. And this isn't a blanket rule, but for example, you can fly from Australia to Europe for 90,000 points in business class booked through Delta, and those are usually with like Vietnam Airlines. Or you can fly from Singapore to Vietnam business class for 40,000 Delta Sky Miles. And so these are great deals, but they're not usually relevant for your casual United States traveler. Maybe someone who travels a little bit more random like me will get use out of my Delta miles in that way. But when I'm using my Delta miles, I'm usually flying economy. And it's usually a domestic US trip, and I get automatically upgraded to Comfort Plus when there's seats available because I have platinum status, and that makes my journey a little bit more comfortable. And I do pay a premium because I'm booking in the portal, the Delta portal, I should say. And those flights are more expensive than what I would get if I was booking on one of the other airlines, generally speaking. But because I know I'm going to have a nicer experience with Delta, and I can use the Delta Sky Club that I get access on with my Platinum Amex. I'm actually out of those now. I'm starting chipping away at my Delta Reserve Sky Club visits, but I like the Sky Clubs. I actually prefer them to the Centurion lounges, generally speaking, at the airports that I fly through normally. And so that's the only time when I think it's like actually worthwhile to use your miles in Delta, or if there's Delta flash sales going on. Again, those are usually economy good deals, but Delta flash sales are really great deals a lot of the time. And if you don't mind flying economy, you can get some good value out of your Delta miles. Anyway, that was a long-winded way of saying that you can earn a boost based on having the credit cards and spending on those credit cards. Now, there is another way that you can earn towards status with Delta and get quite a big boost. It's the MQD Head Start. And so if you have the Platinum Delta Amex, you get 2,500 MQDs each year earned towards your status. You can't spend these MQDs. They have no value outside of the fact that they're helping you get to a status tier faster. So on the Platinum Amex, it's 2,500, and on the Delta Platinum Delta Amex, I should say. And then on the Delta Reserve Amex, it's also another 2,500 MQD head start. So if you have those two credit cards, you're 5,000 MQDs deep without lifting a finger at the start of the year, and that's halfway to gold status. Now, I currently have the Delta Reserve. I have the Delta Gold card as well. I would have churned the Delta Gold card, but they offered me a great retention offer. Stay tuned for another episode in the future here because I will talk about retention offers at length. And the Delta Reserve gets me that 2,500 MQD head start, which helped me get to platinum status last year. This year, I'm sitting at about 12,800 MQDs right now. And so I'm very seriously thinking about getting the Platinum Delta Amex to tip me over the edge and make sure that I retain my platinum status for next year. Now, the final way that I will talk about earning towards your MQD status is with Delta Vacations. Now, this might be one of the fastest ways to earn status, but if you book a Delta Vacation, that is the hotel and flight looped or booked together via Delta, then those dollars that you spend, excluding taxes and fees, count towards MQDs on your path to status with Delta. And so you can imagine if you're booking a flight and maybe a 5-night stay, that can be $4,000 or $5,000 pretty quickly. And that can really help supercharge your earnings towards your gold, platinum, or maybe diamond status. This is particularly useful if you travel a lot for work, possibly. There is a little bit of inflation with Delta on their flights and hotels, possibly. So I wouldn't necessarily always want to be booking it out of my own pocket on those. But if you can justify it through a company credit card, maybe that's worthwhile. Yeah, I think that would be the main way to earn status quickly if you needed to. And don't forget about the Delta stays and Delta cars, Delta rides. I don't know what they call it because I've never used it before. But sometimes they run promos where just booking a Delta stay or a Delta car. I really can't think of right now of what they call that. But if you book those, sometimes during a promo period, those will count as MQDs. But as a standard, it's only the Delta Vacations that count towards your MQDs and not the stays or cars. So anyway, make of that what you will. And I think that platinum status is worth pushing for. And it's mainly because of those automatic upgrades to Comfort Plus that you get when you're flying with Delta and book an economy main seat. I love that. I think it's so helpful. You get to board earlier. You do get a bit more leg room. It makes your traveling experience just that bit more pleasant. And sometimes you'll get upgraded to Delta One. When you hit platinum status, something that's going to help you get upgraded to Delta One much more readily is the regional upgrade certificates that you get on platinum status. So this is a choice benefit. There are a number of different choice benefits that you can get, which include, gifting status to someone, or I've honestly never really considered the others too deeply because they're not as valuable as the regional upgrade certificates. So regional upgrade certificates bump you to the top of the priority upgrade list. And so even if there's a bunch of diamonds flying on my flight, if we're all in Comfort Plus, I can apply a regional upgrade certificate, and that will put me ahead of all of the diamonds on my flight so that if there is a seat available on that plane in Delta One or first class, I will have first priority of getting that seat. It used to be really good to apply these. Last year, you would know a few days in advance, or at least a day in advance, that your RUC had been applied and you had been upgraded to Delta One. If you're flying out of an airport like LAX or JFK, that can include a Delta One private security terminal or Delta One lounge, which are my favorite lounges. But these days, you usually find out at the last second. That's been my experience anyway. And so a lot of the time, that means that you don't get to enjoy those special perks. like private security access or the Delta Lounge, unless you've got an airport destination that has a Delta Lounge, Delta One Lounge on the other side. So that's what happens to me. I will be walking towards the gate because the flight is boarding, and then I get a little buzz in my pocket and my phone says, "You've been upgraded to Delta One." And I feel really ungrateful saying this now, but it makes me sad because I want to have been enjoying the Delta One Lounge while I waited for my flight, but you don't get that opportunity. But a good hack with Delta is, and I should post about this on my Instagram, but when you touch down, you are able to enter the Delta Sky Club if you are traveling on a ticket that allows you or permits you entry. And so if you've flown Delta One, try and get that ticket that they give you. Sometimes they give you a little update ticket when you're boarding the plane, and that will show that you flew Delta One, and then on the other side of the flight, if there's a Delta One lounge, you can enter. And that's what I'll do. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like having checked baggage, because I want to be able to step in to the Delta One lounge on the other side and not worry about my baggage rolling around baggage claim for hours or getting stolen, whatever. And I get to enjoy the massage chairs and the sushi and sit down dining at the Delta One lounges. So I recommend that, and I hope that next year maybe I will apply my regional upgrade certificate sooner, and maybe I'll get cleared faster. I've probably mentioned before to you that I usually book things really last minute, so maybe that's why I haven't been getting lucky with advanced upgrades and why I've always been upgraded at the last second. But anyway, here we are. And so I guess all of that is to say, I really like flying Delta. I like the service. I think the aircraft are decent. I like Delta One operated flights. I like the Delta One lounges. I also really like the Delta Sky Clubs. And I like flying Delta. But what I don't like is how expensive their pricing has gotten. And they're using dynamic pricing, and I think that I might have been put into a business traveler bucket where they are giving me higher pricing, and I'll often book a flight and then go into the app days or weeks later if I've booked in advance enough, and I can see that the flight price is actually reduced, and I will make the update in the app. I go to change flight and then I rebook the exact same flight and I get a refund of the difference. There are also apps that can help you do this, but that's helpful, but also it's wasting my time. I'd rather not have to go through that. I'd rather just fair pricing. I know some people will say that's just normal dynamic pricing, but I do believe that in addition to that normal dynamic pricing, I've been put in the expensive or like wealthy business traveler bucket, which I don't belong in. Not me. I'm a cheapo when it comes to flying. As you probably know if you watch any of my videos, I want to be flying business class for the price of economy. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for being here. Again, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next video.